Haters. The people who absolutely despise things for reasons they themselves see as legitimate. Though in reality, these reasons may not be legitimate at all. And this is something we can all relate to. You're a hater of something, I am well known for being a hater of a certain eternal idiot, and the characters in Honkai Star Rail tend to take hate to the next level. Because in the last few videos, I have delved so deep into Emporius that it is time to come up for air and look at the big picture. And by big picture, I mean the fact that there are so many characters that hate things with an intensity that makes absolutely no sense, with a dedication that shouldn't be possible, and no one is addressing this. Because you see, hate is a strong word. So in this video, it is my goal to show you just how hateful the universe of Honkai Star Rail can be, because it is actually kind of funny how far these haters go. Because this is the top 5 biggest haters in Honkai Star Rail revealed. Okay, so the way we're going to be doing this is I'm going to start off with the 5th spot and work our way up to the biggest hater in the universe. And the way I am judging this is based off of just how out of the way this being goes to be a hater, and of course the sheer amount of hating that they do. Good. So let's start off this list strong with a fan favorite who has been power crept in game, but not in lore. None other than the former Furnace Master of the Xianzhou Zhuming and High Cloud Quintet member, Yingxing, aka Blade. And unfortunately, Blade does make this list, and I'm going to explain to you exactly why. You see, Yingxing before becoming Blade was from an unnamed planet that was taken over by Borisin and turned into one of their weapons nurseries. And you know what that means if you know what a mecha beast is. But he escaped and made it aboard the Xianzhou Zhuming, where a Foxian Starskiff pilot named Bai Hung made it her mission to make him feel comfortable in his new home. So comfortable, in fact, that he became one of the most renowned and talented sword forgers on the Zhuming as a short-lived species, even becoming the High Cloud Quintet's weaponsmith, meaning that he alone had the honor of having the sword champion herself wield his creation in battle. But this would all come crumbling down when in a battle against the Emanator of Abundance, Shu Hu, Bai Hung sacrificed her life and fell. And just like that, Yingxing lost the person who turned him into the man he was. And in a moment of weakness, he assisted Dan Feng in a plan aimed at reviving Bai Hung, which would result in the events now known as the Sedition of Imbiber Lunae, leading to Yingxing becoming Mara-struck and Bailu coming into existence along with a beast that they had to kill. And this was the birth of the legendary hater known as Blade. Because, you see, the Mara affects Blade a bit differently for 2 reasons. One, because it involves Shu Hu's DNA, but also because he isn't a Xianzhou native. So he can't really die unlike Mara-struck Xianzhou natives even when he's killed. One thing that is consistent though is the fact that he loses his mind, leading him to blame his frustrations on Dan Feng. But this is where the problem is. Dan Feng was forced into reincarnation for his crimes. And it is well documented that the Vidyadhara are not the same person at all once they rehatch, and retain none of their initial memories. They may not even hatch as the same sex. But regardless of all of this, Blade made it his mission to track down Imbiber Lunae. And this led him to tracking Dan Heng across the stars, even hijacking IPC ships to relentlessly chase him with the aim of killing him. Even though every time he caught him, Dan Heng would defeat him in self-defense. But this didn't stop Blade because he can't die. And this song and dance has continued for hundreds of years, or however old Dan Heng is. Meaning that not only is Blade such a hater that he waited what is probably hundreds of years to spawn camp Dan Heng, but he also doesn't care about the fact that the guy he's really mad at is already dead. He just wants to kill Dan Heng because he reminds him of Dan Feng, and he never even comes close to succeeding. And this guy is the least hateful guy on this list, mainly because he still has the capacity to be cordial and ally with Dan Heng to fight Yanqing, even though he really had no reason to do so. And he's a Stellaron hunter now, and he's got other things to do than to chase Dan Heng, so he gets the 5th spot. And here's where you're going to realize that everything I've said so far was just a preview, because now is where things get extreme. Because admittedly, there is a huge gap between spots 4 and 5. Because in the 4th spot, we have an Aeon. Yes, I didn't say this was a list of human haters. This is just a list of haters, and there aren't many that hate more than Lon the Hunt. Let me explain. Because there is a reason why Lon is the only Aeon with the word hatred in their official description. You see, this is gonna sound strange, but what if I told you that the Shanzhou Alliance is older than their Aeon, and that their Aeon's origin is the Shanzhou Juming? Yes, a prisoner called Rainbow was originally in cryosleep, awoke, and sacrificed himself by making a deal with the most powerful Heliobus to ever exist, the Flint Emperor, to fire a star-shattering shot at Mudrasil, a living tree planet. Not to be confused with Rahu, the other living planet that was revived by Shuhu, the masochistic tree emanator. I'm not lying, this is all in the lore. Anyway, Lon ended up ascending over 1,000 years later, apparently originating from this rainbow individual. And this would be the rise of the Aeon of Friendly Fire. Because just like the star-shattering shot that caused mass casualties, by the way, being referred to as
blood rain poured over the Shuling,
and
nights turned to crimson on the Fanghu.
Lon took this origin story and said, I can do better. And if you haven't noticed, Lon ascended for the sole reason to fight the denizens of abundance. This Aeon ascended from hate, and this hate has caused so many problems for the Shanzhou people. Because Lon has already fired a Lux arrow that claimed the life of Yueyu, their own general and supposed emanator, but also they fired at the Yuchue and killed Fu Xuan's master, the former master diviner, and hit the Fanghu with the same shot, which destroyed a fifth of it. Now, mind you, the flagships are planet-sized ships, and Lon fires from light years away, meaning that not only do their Lux arrows have insane AoE and are not at all precise, but everything in the path of the arrows is also destroyed as it travels to the target. This Aeon is so hateful that they are fighting an immortal enemy while belligerently causing planetary level damage to both the enemy and their own side, which led to the second rise of Sanctus Medicus, the abundance cult that literally rose because of Lon's collateral damage. Lon is such a hater that their own general, Fei Xiao, made it her life goal to make sure they never fire their bow again. Meaning that not even the faction this Aeon ascended to protect and fight for even wants their intervention. And you would think that it can't get worse than this, but it does. Because even though Lon is a huge hater, they don't exactly go out of their way to do so. They were kinda created to do what they do. And this lack of spitefulness is what causes Lon to be in fourth. But in the third spot, we have a fan favorite. An infamous man that you had to know was going to be on this list somewhere. None other than the former nameless turned IPC head, Oswaldo Schneider. Yes, he's back, and he is one of the top 3 haters in this universe. Because even though he hasn't done as much as Lon, he has absolutely no reason to do the damage he has done. Yet he has been the villain behind 2 characters' entire backstories, Boothill and Aventurine. And I've made a whole video about this guy, so I'm gonna keep it short. But Oswaldo is the sole reason Aventurine's entire clan was cast out into the desert to die in starvation, and the reason why they were torn to shreds by catechins. Also, part of the reason why Aventurine was enslaved. And this was all because Oswaldo initiated Sigonian sovereignty that unified all the warring clans on the planet besides the catechins and Avgens. Those 2 clans were stigmatized. So Oswaldo decided to end a civil war by creating racism that still persists to this day, even though there is only one Avgen left. Do you know how hateful you have to be to create racism? This goes beyond the scope of doing something hateful yourself. This is weaponizing every surrounding faction and force to hate a specific people. But it doesn't end there, because in order to gain access to a black ore to make weapons out of, Oswaldo greenlit and incentivized his army to use military force on the helpless civilians of Aragon Farshal, aka Boothill's homeworld, which not only killed everyone Boothill knew and loved, including his supposed daughter, but also basically destroyed the planet. All because he made a game out of it. A lotto, if you will. And speaking of lottos, Oswaldo created the Cosmic Big Lotto Curio that ruins your simulated universe runs. So not only does Oswaldo hate in-game, he breaks the fourth wall to hate on you too. And just so you know, Oswaldo is the same rank as Diamond. This guy has emanator levels of authority in the IPC, and he uses it to hate on literally everyone. But Oswaldo is just one guy, and is probably not a long-life species. So what would happen if he could reincarnate a near infinite amount of times? Well, that would result in the second biggest hater on this list. The one character I haven't really mentioned at all in any of my Amphorius videos, Elder Kynes. Now, you gotta understand, Elder Kynes is a hater unlike anything we have ever seen in this game. And unlike the others, her hate is personal. Extremely personal. And just like Oswaldo, she leads her own faction of haters, fueled entirely by her own hatred. You see, Elder Kynes has no discernible reason to hate the Chrysos heirs, but she does. And she hates with an intensity that is not even close to rational. Because this is worse than Lon nuking their own followers in order to hurt the Abundance. Kynes is willing to let the holy city fall and the world end just to spite the demigods that have done nothing but protect her and everyone else's life. Her hatred is so incredibly blind and stupid that she wanted to kill the sole reason why Akima was safe and actively threatened a disabled child just to blackmail said demigod. And this was just her latest feat. Because this is just the Kynes we know. In truth, Kynes has used alchemy to possess people, taking over their bodies just to continue her path of hatred. Meaning that this is the 27th Kynes to exist. And her corrupt ways can be traced back over 1,000 years to the time of Seliosi. Because it was her that caused the infighting that made Seliosi lose her faith in humanity, leading to her choice and annihilating the Skyfolk. Kynes and her faction, the Cleaners, have done nothing but exist as a filthy stain on the face of Amphorius, leaving nothing but death and corruption in their wake. And all because of one person's irrational hatred. This person is so delusional that she calls Aglaya an ageless witch when she herself is in fact older than Aglaya. The time of Seliosi was 3870 and Aglaya ascended in 3930. That is a 60-year gap. And there is no way that Aglaya was 60 when she gained her divinity. And this probably wasn't even Kynes' first life. Because if this is in fact the 27th Kynes, and let's say she lived around 70 years average in each body, this demon has been around for 1,890 years, which is near double Aglaya's entire lifespan. And this person called her an ageless witch. Projection of the century. And the thing is, that's a low ball, because if she actually is from Arachrysia that she wanted to go back to so badly, that is well over 3,000 years ago. When you Google generational hater, Kynes' picture should pop up. She has no morals, no intelligence, no self-awareness, fails at everything she does, and found a way to die by her own actions, and somehow managed to die without regret. This transcends hatred. This is a level of spite beyond human comprehension. Why? Because she does all of this for absolutely no reason and ends up getting played by everyone anyway. 27 lives dedicated to hatred, killing generations of innocent people just to fail and accomplish nothing. The flame chase was still a success. And that is the second biggest hater in the universe. And speaking of the number 27, this finally brings us to the biggest hater ever to exist in Honkai Star Rail, sitting atop the throne of hostility, fueled by the sole goal of wiping the universe clean of all organic life, dwarfing every other being on this list in widespread damage, spite, personal involvement, and social impact, none other than the Emperor of Hate himself, Rubert won. You guys probably knew he was going to be number 1, and for good reason. His beef with all organic life is indeed personal and spawned because of his own damage logic unit, meaning that his hatred is even more irrational than Blade. He has destroyed over a galaxy's worth of organic life, so he has done more damage than Lan has ever done. He raised an army that took on half the known universe, ratioing Oswaldo's impact and racism. He reincarnated by taking over a person's body and mind and does not age, dunking on kindness. And worst of all is that all it took was a single neuron of his external brain to create Amphorius, an ever-resetting world rigged to kill everyone on it and reset, only to kill them all again, trapping them on an eternal loop of death. This scepter is all that is currently left of Rubert, and he is using it to hate on organic life from the seclusion of a place so unreachable that Akavili has never even found it. And the other scepters, by merely existing, caused the Scholars' strife, a conflict that nearly led to the end of the universe. Rubert has been a menace to the entire universe for so long that he is half the reason why Nanook exists. The Aeon that views the universe as a mistake was created because of Rubert. There is no bigger hater than the Emperor of the Machine Empire. And in my opinion, Rubert proudly sits atop the throne of hatred, having a beef with all that breathes. Because this is the top 5 biggest haters in Honkai Star Rail revealed. There are a bunch of honorable mentions I could put down, so feel free to comment some others that you feel like should be up there. I just appreciate that the Honkai Star Rail story has characters that are just irredeemable and objectively bad people. It gets old when every villain is just misguided or misunderstood, but no, not Kindness, not Rubert. These beings deserve to fall into IX and cease to be. Erase them from existence, leaving no trace behind so that not even a memory of them can cause damage. Surely there aren't any Kindness defenders, right? Surely there are no cleaners in my comment section, right? Anyway, this was a fun list to make, so let me know if I missed any notorious haters that should have made the list, because this just might get an update in the future. I got Kindness and Rubert on top. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.